Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be reminiscing. I'm going to be bringing you guys back to the good old days. Yes, the good old days. We're not going to get political here. I'm talking about the good old days musically, when artists like this guy was still alive. Am I right? All the music nowadays is all rubbish with all that rap crap. Am I right, everybody?
You arrogant SOB. Look at that, greatest hits. Yeah, I didn't want to leave you out, old dirty bastard. This is something that I really got to pick up right now. Not.
Yes, talk to anybody who's of an age where they believe that chocolate like Snickers and Mars bars have gotten smaller over the years, because they have. And the same people who are measuring the country's economy by the inflation prices of a Freddo, these are the people who you typically run into who say that music nowadays is all rubbish and it was much better back in the day. First off, one of the things that I'm very, very thankful we've kind of moved on as a nation is stereotyping people and that being a joke. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with making jokes out of certain things, but when it comes to a certain point where if you're just taking the piss out of somebody for the being just who they are and that's the joke, I think you need to work on your humour. Particularly 70s humour over here in Britain was particularly terrible.
This time next month we'll have a couple of proper white neighbours, not a couple of nignogs.
Oh, blimey! I get more money for not being working than when I'm working.
I think you would have to be one of the greatest actors of all time to watch any of those episodes or carry on films throughout and say that you actually laughed genuinely. But anyways, we can talk about the music as well, because we can listen to this brilliant song called Shut Up At Your Face by Joe Dolce.
It's a not so bad, it's a nicer place. Shut up at your face.
Yes, he's funny because he is Italiano, yes? You put in front of every word, and that's the joke.
That's my mama.
My mama, In fact, my mother mentioned that when she was working on wards and clearing out dead bodies, the manager used to sing this song, so imagine clearing up corpses and recently deceased people in here and... To a T what terrible, shoddy 80s music could be, I think we've got to give it over to Black Lace with Agadoo.
Push pineapple, shake the tree. Push pineapple, drink coffee.
This song is the epitome of just terrible, just garish and gaudy and just yeah. Whenever I think of this song, I just imagine a horrible hotel resort with loads of people packing on loads of food in the cavalries and just sunbathing and drinking cheap beer and not doing anything whatsoever apart from just getting pissed for 2 weeks. What I also think's interesting is Spittin' Image, who, if you aren't familiar with them, you might be familiar with them doing a music video to a Genesis song. They were a really good satirical TV show on ITV and parodied a lot of the terribleness that was going on around that time, mostly focusing on the royals and mainly Parliament and such, but occasionally they would hit the nail on the head by parodying songs like Agadoo, only instead we ended up getting a Poe's Law theory coming into fruition because they released this song called The Chicken Song, which is basically a parody of songs like Agadoo, but at the same time, The Chicken Song ended up charting.
Chicken in the air, stinker, take care of your nose. Yes, you'll hear this song in the holiday disco.
And because of that, a lot of people ended up hearing basically a rendition of Agadoo. So it was twice the awfulness, despite one of them being a parody. Oh dear, you can't win. I remember at least about 10 years ago, I'd have to say now, that my older relatives and just older people I would come across would usually use as an example of how music today is terrible is things like The Crazy Frog, Yes, in the mid to late 2000s, I think a lot of you will remember in the sort of birth of the mobile ringtone age, we got a lot of these quirky, cute little mascots. And yes, Crazy Frog was just appalling. And yes, I will admit I was a big fan of him too. I did come across my old CD copy of one of the Crazy Frog albums in one of my CD collection videos, and I paid him a good homage. What? God. Yep. But, anyways, they're acting like this is a sort of a new thing, but does no one remember Jive Bunny and the Master Mix?
Come on, everybody! Come on, everybody!
Basically, this is the same sort of thing, taking an already pre-existing song and ruining it with a terrible, just ugly looking mascot. Only, as well as that, I think it's worse, because at least with Crazy Frog's songs, usually, I'm sorry, but the songs were already pretty naff. But with Jive Bunny, a lot of the hits were usually generally really good songs. The fact that someone like Glenn Miller, who would have such beautifully done music, would end up appearing on these trite songs, it just makes us kind of think, especially with it being Glenn Miller and these things coming out in the late 80s. Since Sinatra passed in the early 90s, I wonder if he ever listened to these songs. Oh dear, poor Frankie. And there's just been so many terrible novelty songs, speaking of novelty numbers, that were made throughout the 70s and 80s. I mean, don't get us wrong, I know there's been plenty made nowadays.
We built this city on sausage rolls.
I suppose you can't exactly make the Starship song worse by making a rendition of We Built This City on Rock and Roll and changes it from rock and roll to sausage rolls. Oh, lad baby, that's really clever. And next year you made another song which is a parody.
I love sausage rolls, sweet with ketchup or gravy.
Instead of I love rock and roll, it's I love sausage rolls. That's really clever. So in the previous year you changed rock and roll to sausage rolls, and this year you changed rock and roll to sausage rolls. Hey, but it's for charity. Who cares if this song's absolutely shit? And although they're not exactly parodies of songs, the 70s and 80s, and I suppose even 90s, couldn't escape the singles which came out, which were literally just children's TV shows doing adaptations of their TV intros. Like Teletubbies.
Say hello.
Orville the Duck.
You want to care, and we'll be there to tuck me in at night.
But I'll always be there, Wombles.
Bob the Builder. 2 songs actually Bob the Builder had hits with. Obviously, Can We Fix It? But also this classic.
A little bit of timber and a saw, a little bit of fixing, that's for sure.
Squad. This is classic Bob. The Wombles as well, but we can't escape the worst one. The one that has always gave me nightmares since I was 3, and now at 23 still does. The just evil thing. Mr. Blobby. Who looked at this and thought this was appealing to children? Every time I've looked at it, it's just terrified me. Terrified me. And it had a hit, this thing.
His eye's fallen off. His eye has fallen off. What the fuck were you allowed near kids?
No one likes you, Mr. Blobby. It's the reason why no one really knows about you anymore. No one ever sees you about. In fact, that's a good thing. Stay out of my life, Mr. Blobby. You've haunted me for all my life. You've probably haunted a lot of people all of their lives. You were a mistake. Alright? Anyways, and hey you old folks out there who maybe look at songs like Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay and think, look at those stupid dances. I mean, back in my day we never had any sort of that rubbish. Does anyone remember the tweets with the Birdie song? Come on everybody! This is fun. Good thing that come out of that song is that it probably really inspired the legend that is Vermin Supreme.
My name is Vermin, my name is Vermin, Vermin Supreme. My name is Vermin, my name is Vermin.
And I want to end this video with the final songs which I'll be talking about, which I think just summarise how, no, the olden days weren't all just good. The Winifred's School Choir came up with this absolutely just saccharine track, which is dedicated to all you grandmothers out there.
Grandma, we love you. Grandma, we do. Grandma, we love you.
For all you people out there who had a bit of a dicky belly and you couldn't quite puke out whatever you had lying in your stomach, I hope that song helped you out. But despite that song being clearly hair-pullingly terrible, it somehow gets worse. Clive Dunn, who is famous for being Corporal Jones in the, to many people, classic BBC show Dad's Army, created a song called Grandpa.
Now my days are gone, memories linger on.
Now, maybe a bit of a coincidence, it was released around the same time as the Grandma song, but who knows, you know, wanting to stick to a trend, why not? I mean, we can't leave all those grandpas out there if grandmas are getting a shout out. But the thing is, listen to this song and listen to the Grandma song.
Grandma, we love you. Grandma, we do. Granddad, Granddad, you're lovely.
They're nearly the same songs. Has this ever even happened since? A clearly horrendous song. And then a song comes later that not only takes inspiration from said horrible song, but basically rips it off and also charts highly. Can that not just show in itself how bad the UK has been, not just recently, but for a long time, when it comes to choosing what should be a hit? And I think that'll conclude my little rendezvous back in the past. If you know anybody who still believes that all music nowadays is terrible, then yeah, think of the songs that I just played you there. Unless you're one of those people who thinks that there's always been terrible music, and I'd agree. But let's not say that all modern music is bad. You just need to fish out and you'll find some really good music. If you go back to the 70s and 80s, you'll find that a lot of the most acclaimed records and acclaimed bands in general, they weren't that much of a huge hit back in the day, and it's probably going to be the same thing for nowadays. You've got these artists, these bands, these rappers, whoever, who you're a fan of now, and you might be thinking these guys deserve more praise, but give it 20, 30 years, and they might end up doing so, like we are looking into previous artists and bands that have existed in the past years. We'll see, but on that note, thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening.